Hello. I'm going to talk about Levitation by Gerhard Rühm, and I decided to give this talk in English, although it limits my rhetorical capacities a bit. But yeah, I'll try to make it as short as possible, and then I'll try to give you a reading of that poem. So I probably won't have to say too much about Gerhard Rühm, since I feel like most of the people in this room will probably be familiar with his work. But he was an artist and writer, born in 1930 in Vienna, turned 90 this year, and was mainly working in media, drawing, writing, music, and especially musical notation. Maybe Rühm's work could be described as like an extreme example of the tendency of concrete poetry, of works of concrete poetry to be works of visual arts and literature at the same time. And while one can see a lot of Rühm's works as a piece of poetry or drawing or music all at once, one cannot, on the other hand, read many of his works. Levitation is one of the works you can read. That's one of the reasons I chose this. So Levitation is a poem composed of 29 lines, and it can roughly be divided into 4 parts, with each of these parts being built around one word or concept. Körper, which would be body in English, Leib. Another word for body, but maybe rather in the sense that maybe the word flesh as a description of the body carries in English. Lieb, an abbreviated form of the word Liebe, love in German. And Licht, which means light. The title and the repetitive, almost sermon-like structure of the poem emphasize the metaphysical or even theological meanings of these words. I would describe what's happening in the poem as a series of slow and gradually happening metamorphoses from one word or concept towards and into the next. Rühm achieves this effect by obviously employing lots of assonances and alliterative combinations. This development in sound is being accompanied by gradual changes of semantic fields or categories. The robust Körper becomes a Leib, changing from the biological to the metaphysical, so to speak. The Leib tends to leap. Individual flesh becomes a trans-individual concept. And finally, Körper, Lieb, and Leib become Licht, which is being performed by the text image itself in the last 5 lines of the poem. The tautological Licht sequences at the end of the poem also end the series of transformations, which, according to my reading experience, can be understood as the description of a gradually proceeding disembodiment, which corresponds with the poem's moving from semantically very robust to totally concrete sentences or even words. It seems as if while the body becomes light, which actually in English the word light has both meanings, like the meanings of Leicht and Licht, which Rühm employs here. While the body becomes light, language first loses its ability to produce meaning and finally disappears itself. I personally admire Levitation for its incredible economy of syntax, semantics, and sound. In my own writing, I find it incredibly hard to produce this kind of gradual tilting transformations that are being executed so elegantly in this poem. Okay, I have to admit I find this really hard, but I'm going to try to read this to you. Wenn der Körper ein wenig leichter wird, wenn der Körper leichter wird, wenn der Körper vielleicht leicht wird, wenn der Körper sehr viel leichter wird, wenn der Körper leicht wird, wenn der Körper leicht wird, wenn der Leib leicht wird, leuchtet, wenn der Leib leicht wird, ganz leicht, wenn der Leib leicht wird und Licht, wenn der Leib Licht wird, ganz Licht, wenn der Leib Licht wird im Licht. Wenn in Lieblicht wird der Leib, wenn in Lieblicht wird der Leib und leicht, wenn in Lieblicht wird der Leib und leuchtet im Licht, wenn in Lieblicht wird der Leib erleuchtet im Licht, wenn in Lieblicht wird der Leib Licht im Licht, wenn in Lieblicht wird der Leib und leicht im Licht, wie in Lieblicht ist Licht in Licht, wie Lieb im Licht ist Licht in Licht, wie Licht in Licht ist Licht in Licht, Licht in Licht in Licht in Licht, 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 leicht, Licht,